Podcast by Cryptic Canticles.
Alright, things are happening. Welcome to the Bram's Lounge final podcast behind the scenes of this current project that we're working on for Cryptic Canticles, the Dracula radio play podcast. And we have with us this evening all four of the lovely ladies of the Cryptic Canticles. We unfortunately are not able to have Sean Leonard with us this evening. So part of one of the things we like to do is to figure out upcoming projects, and we're going to discuss that a little bit this evening. And I think we're also going to talk about lessons learned. So maybe we'll start there. I think that's a good place to start. Gwen, what are some of the things that you have learned, or the main lesson learned from this project?
Keep more records.
Yeah.
Wait, who did this part? I know you recorded it, but I didn't write down who did it. Crap.
That's a really good point.
It's amazing what you think you'll remember, and then when it all starts to come together, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah. Also, scrounging at the last moment for parts that we forgot that existed. That was another good one.
Right.
A lot of lessons learned on that. A lot of lessons learned on I'm glad we got what we got done, but we did need a little bit more lead time.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I learned a lot from the project entirely because it was first directing. So learning how to work with actors, that was a really fascinating process for me. I had an idea about something, the actor has other idea about it. Learning how to come between and make the ideas merge. It was a really fascinating thing for me.
So collaboration and compromise.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So I learned that when I went through the script the first time, that I wished that I'd also made a separate doc for all the places where I thought audio cues might go. People laughing and things like that, so that we could cast them in advance. And as you know, as Gwen said, records.
It's
always, if the question ever comes between should I write this down or shouldn't I?
Write it down.
Right.
I should have.
No such thing as too much information in this.
Because what I did when I went through the script initially, I always put marks where I thought that there needed to be where there needed to be vocalizations, but then when those translated over to script, they didn't always come through. And I'll hear something every once in a while and be like, this really would have benefited from this if only we had known in advance to cast somebody to do that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's what I wish I had done. And maybe I'll make a catalog of those things for next time.
More documentation.
More documentation is always better than less.
I learned don't move across the country while working on a project. Though I think I learned that we can do it.
Yeah.
We can still do it, and I don't know. I think it helped give us some very interesting deadlines, and I learned to really appreciate Google Docs. Like, more, if I hadn't already appreciated Google Docs, I really appreciated Google Docs. I think I learned that in the future we should be very clear on whose job is what, because we did run into a couple things where some of us thought someone else was in charge of something, or maybe thought we maybe heard something one way, but I feel like in the future we should physically write down roles so that it's not based on memory, because I feel like there were a couple times where, and we were still figuring out what we were doing. Like, mostly, like, who's helping with what parts of script, what parts of the website. And I think if we delegate, we should stick to it and have it somewhere so another person can easily look it up and
Record-keeping.
Record-keeping. Words meaning record-keeping.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think that was the biggest thing, is learning when people help out to make sure they know what they're helping with and who they need to talk to with questions.
And that they have something to do.
And also to make sure all the cast are looking at the right documents, because we ran into some cases where some were still reading the book and some were using the scripts, and some were... And then if there was ever an issue in one or the other, they would just go on autopilot. So I think more check-ins and making sure that... I don't know how we would do that.
There were also some places where when the scripts were made from the PDF of the book that had been marked, a few letters got deleted, so off turned into of a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And we caught most of them, I think. I would be way overstepping myself if I could ascertain that we caught them all.
Yeah, I'm sure we did.
But yeah, there was a few that I noticed slip by, and I'm like, oh, I should make a note and see about fixing that. And I still haven't brought them up, but I will.
So if we ever go through that kind of a process again where we have to translate or we have to take it from a different text source material, we have to be sure we proof it, or somebody takes the time to proof it.
Right.
I did think that using the Google Drive was helpful for the main source of documentation. That was helpful to me because I thought, oh, I don't have this. Wait, I know. I'll just go get the doc. It was very useful. So I don't know how other people got sources of material.
Books.
From their books. Okay.
They're like, I have a copy already.
Yeah.
I'll just go to my favorite version.
The book was out next to the computer the whole time for me.
Yeah, there were also different versions between different things. So, like, some of them had a word, and some of them said afternoon, and some of them didn't say afternoon. Like, there was a lot of inconsistency.
It's like different editions of scores.
Right. Eventually, you just have to pick
the
one.
Shermer or the other one?
Yeah.
Like, if you catch something, you can put it in, but...
Do you have the gray Messiah or the orange Messiah? Or the other orange Messiah? I ran into that because I'm doing Messiah right now. I'm like, I have 3 Messiahs. Like, that's not the right Messiah. I'm like, okay, here's another $14. Now I have another Messiah.
Yeah.
It's like the Star Wars limited, like, extra edition with the special features.
Yeah.
The Messiah array. 1, 2, 3.
I had the IMSLP version. That's wrong. You're dead.
No. I think something that I learned in this experience was that we have so many skill sets within this group. And I wound up tapping a skill I didn't even realize I was going to have to tap, which was coding. Mm-hmm. So, go figure. And I wasn't expected to do it. It was a lot of fun to do it. It was a bit more work than I expected to do, but I loved it. Mm-hmm. And I also thought about that as the group as a whole. We have so many skills and so much experience that I think that really allowed this to come together the way it did. Yeah, we had documentation issues, and yes, we had, communication issues sometimes. But I think overall, the process worked.
Yeah, I would say that the thing that probably surprised me a lot is that we never ran into conflict, really, when it comes to vision and direction and the way we felt the project was supposed to go. I never really felt as though we were stepping on each other's toes. And
for the audio listeners, I'm twisting uncomfortably.
Oh, really?
Did you feel as though
there were some, and it's the same thing where people weren't sure about when we didn't clearly write a decision down. We did run into we did have, and it's a good example of when half the team thinks we are writing something in one way, and then the other half does another way, and it sounded like also the voice actors didn't know which one to think about, so they'll just read whatever you put in front of them. Mm-hmm. So, for example, we were debating how close to strictly verbatim will things be, or do we also add every time an actor interjects and said, and then he said blah 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 blah. And then she said, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, there was some discussion about that.
And then the sad part is, we got it narrowed out later, but I think it's the same thing where...
So what happened is that we discussed it very early in the process, and then nobody wrote it down, i.e. me. And
again, it wasn't written down.
And then we forgot about it, and then halfway through we're like, but we've been trying to stay literally to the book, and we're not doing this. Why are we not doing this? And
then...
It was a discussion, and then there was a reminder, no, we did actually discuss it way back when. oh, okay. But the nice thing is even when we have that kind of conflict, we actually came through it pretty adult. We weren't at each other's throat about it. We weren't.
But it is a good example. Like if we ever hone something this format again, that is a good thing to get. Like that should be part of like our style guide library of as scripts are made and as we look for errors, like look for these things and these should be avoided or blah blah blah. Because even someone new coming in, like I said, you hand a script to a person and they assume we've figured that all out and they're not going to bring it up. And I'm sure between Jeff and Jesse, folks have been saying either the right or wrong thing for months, but they don't know to mention it.
I mean,
and all I know is, hey, it's in the script. It must be right, so I'm just going to keep editing.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
At the beginning, I didn't know if the scripts were going to be super necessary, and then I realized how necessary they were for editing and just making sure everything, because things are really not chronological all the time.
No.
Yeah.
And having those scripts done by the day and having all of that reasoning already done about, well, this should probably come first and then this and then this and then this, like, was really
But I'm gonna step back a moment and point out, we decided that we were gonna go with this project in March.
Yeah.
Like late March.
That was almost no time at all.
So we had like a month to get all this stuff
together. Which is why it's marvelous that it actually worked.
And that's despite
like seriously,
despite the fact we really did no lead time at all into this project. We got it together. We managed to get a whole bunch of actors together. We managed to do a lot of this work as we were putting it out. Most of the, sometimes the episodes were late because we were still trying to get them done. But for the most part, we got them out mostly on time. We got them down very well produced. Yes, there were some minor things that we had things. Yeah. But the biggest thing I really appreciate, this goes back to what Liz was saying, we didn't have that much conflict given the stress that we were doing.
Yeah.
With this.
Yeah.
Most of the time you get that kind of stress when we were in the heat of like October.
Oh God!
But most of the time you see production companies, that's when they fall apart because they just get at each other's throats for the stress.
And what helped is, I think, once we had cast members offer to help out.
Yeah,
with tech,
so grateful, Brian Diamond. Yeah.
Oh my God! Yeah, Brian Diamond, who's one of our actors. He also does a lot of stuff with us, Liz and me from Materia Collective, and he sings and does a lot of editing, and he's been getting more and more into sound, and he's like, let me know if you ever need any help. And he offered to help, and he became, his main job was literally just editing down Van Helsing, because the man has so much dialogue.
He does.
Van Helsing was the breakaway surprise for me. Whenever I would listen to him, I'd just be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, there are other actors who I wasn't surprised by, because I knew them, and I knew what they could do. But, happening into him, I was just like, I can't believe it.
And the best part
Cyrus is just so good.
And Cyrus, we didn't happen into Cyrus. Cyrus was referred to me by 3 people who heard I was doing Dracula, and he directly emailed saying, "Can I audition for Van Helsing? Can I audition for?" Do we have a Van Helsing yet?
We were already doing the show at this point, by the way. We didn't have Van Helsing until
he was a pro
until after the first month. Yeah.
Yeah. Van Helsing doesn't appear until September. So yeah. So he had some time to familiarize himself with the text, but
and do a ton of dialogue.
He shocked me with his skill.
Yeah, he was amazing. As soon as he auditioned, I was just like, yes.
Well, there's such a wealth of talent available, and now that we've got the interwebs and we can connect and communicate so quickly with people, it makes it a lot easier to access these resources, these people, the supportive community too. So I think that also helps. But I do think, and I want to go back to that, the vision. I think that's what helped drive this. The fact that the vision was there. And
that probably is because we've been doing Dracula-related stuff for years. Starting with the reading project where we all discussed out things that we were talking about, lip reading as we were reading it. Mm-hmm. That kept us sort of in line on the vision there. We just discussed things live about what we wanted out of, I hate the movie because it doesn't empower females and blah, blah, blah. Behind the scenes we were talking about this the whole time. And then we did the libretto project with Don Giovanni.
And they made us reread and heavily reanalyze and reanalyze again.
Yeah. So by the time we walked into this, we had a very, we already had
we'd all been through the book several times.
hive mind on this.
Well, and I think that shared vision
Yeah.
shown for people, and when you put the word out, people are excited about it. It's for me. I've seen projects that sound great, but then there's confusion about what's really happening, what really needs to happen, where it's going. It's like, well, we're going here, or maybe we're going there, but maybe we got to go try this, and then the vision gets lost. And so, staying consistent with that vision helped, at least from my perspective, seeing that from the outside sometimes. But no, like when I would read the scripts, I'm like, okay, I know what we're doing here. I have a goal. This is my goal. And it was very easy to break down those goals so that you could arrive there a lot faster.
Yeah, and we were able to try some different things and see which one worked. And we were fairly always in agreement about which one we thought was the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Bonnie looks very satisfied.
Also, which month was it? Was it October? That was
October.
every day.
It was every day.
Every day there was an
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No, we missed like 2 or 3 days in October.
Yeah, we managed to pull it through eventually.
There was actually one week where there was like a nice space where we were like, we can catch up now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when they were waiting for the ship. Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah.
That was a thing. But it was tough. And it was some of those performances, analyzing what they meant and what they were referring to was pretty tough. And I think it was kind of tough on us and tough on our actors to kind of get to the root sometimes of what, like, especially near the end when Dracula comes back onto the scene and he has to abuse Mina. And just getting into that, I know, is really rough for some people. But I was really pleased with the performances that we were able to pull out.
Yeah.
That was one of the few Mina things that I had direction on that wasn't in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Liz had to direct me through the Mina getting mauled and vamped in my new closet in my new house in Austin. And it
Remotely.
was like, remotely. Well, Jeff Brenneman, who normally has such a pleasant, non-scary voice, is creeping the hell out of me. And I'm like, this is not hard to pretend reactions to. He is, holy God. He did a really good job being scary. Very good.
It's I think it is very important to pull the human out of what the Dracula book is actually doing and saying and drawing out what it's pulling from and what it says about us and human nature and things like that. Once you can get to the root of it, once you can get the subtext, then it starts to become very clear.
So, speaking of moments of humanity, which moment did you enjoy the most, either listening to a recording, or do you feel in general has the most meaning to you? What moment stuck out?
Gwen is grinning like a crazy person. Oh, for those listening, because this is a podcast.
Baby eating.
The baby eating.
All right, yeah, that was pretty juicy.
Literally.
I enjoyed that immensely, tremendously. Yeah.
Well, no, I really enjoyed that had a really lot of layers to it episode.
Literally.
And so so whenever
The skin part and the goopy and
whenever I'm introducing people to what it is we did, I pull out that episode. I'm like,
The slurping.
I was proud of my baby.
oh man.
I happened to be very sick at the time, so my voice would like fracture a lot, and I used that to make my baby. And I remember recording that, and then I opened the door and everybody's staring at me with a mask of horror. And I'm like, was it good? And they're like, oh. I'm like, oh, good. That was fun. For me, I think my favorite part to record, other than the baby, was Lucy's death.
That was
I channeled Quint in Jaws getting bitten by the shark when I was trying to do the like blood coming out of the mouth and foaming and chomping and stuff like that. And that was one of my favorite parts to do. I would have gone on and on and on with it if I thought that I needed it. But man, that was a great time.
That was a foamy death.
That was a
There
foamy,
was a lot of
bitter
spit in there.
death,
Oh God.
and it was so much fun to do.
My favorite parts miss anything involving Mr. Swales.
Directing,
That
like,
man's voice.
like working with the text. That was my favorite directing part.
just
Yeah.
like,
Working with
talking
Mr.
about
Swales.
the tombstone.
Because I got
Trying to
to
figure out what he was saying.
See, I worked out. I'd almost typed up, but I didn't. Or I don't think I did. Typed up an actual paraphrase of what he's saying. But we did have to look up a few things on the fly.
Yeah, we had to figure out what does this mean?
But I loved when I paraphrased what he was saying, and everyone's like, "That's ridiculous," and I'm like, "Yeah, it most certainly is."
Yeah, and the thing is, what he's saying is awesome.
It's awesome, and it's kind of dark, but
Yeah.
it's hard to detect.
Yeah.
If you're, when you're reading the text and trying to extrapolate the words through the accent, but when you hear it, it's amazing.
The tombstones don't get down by the...
We talk about Mr. Swales a lot because he was a lot of fun. Zookeeper was great too.
Zookeeper was... Oh, I forgot about the zoo. Yeah, so basically anyone with a crazy accent that talks in words that don't make sense nowadays, but Liz actually was able to coach the actors in understanding what they were saying.
Most of the time they
enjoyable.
didn't need a whole lot of coaching, but usually people who had really thick accents also had funny analogies that they made. So that was all the more fun to be like, this is what you're saying, and they're like, oh, and then they had it.
I like the joke in the zoo scene when he's like, because what was it? Oh God,
Fabulous.
The one whenever
one.
he's like, what do you think? What really happened to the wolf? And it's like the wolf just wanted to get out, and he's like laughing. And Judy's like the wife. She's like, oh.
Yes,
oh.
I did enjoy the Cockney bit there.
The Cockney was fun.
A lot of fun.
Your Cockney laugh was great. Oh.
Thank you. But it was crazy because 1 minute I'm recording that, and then I've got to do Lucy's mom. Her mom. Her very
His
proper,
mom.
gentle, dying mom.
You had a lot of jumps to do.
But it was
Then
great.
your vampire bride.
Yeah.
Lucy's mom, who totally accidentally helped kill her daughter.
Oopsies on that. My bad. But, it's all good. Okay.
Whoopsies on that.
They're like, yeah, I was helpful. I really was. No, you weren't.
That's like, and then she quietly leaves, and then Van Helsing immediately starts sobbing. It's like, oh, that woman. Oh,
Bless her heart.
bless her heart. She has screwed us all.
Yep.
And you're just walking outside like, do, I'm so helpful, I'm so great. And this man is brought to ruin.
No.
I actually wish there was a bit more for the Vampire Brides because they were so much fun.
Yeah.
They had, they were because you trying to figure out, okay, how can we bring out these, alluring, sexy, but scary women and in such a short period of time. It's not easy because you do need, yes, there's descriptions of them in the book, but to portray that and so tiny little amount of time, it's
I think, for other reasons, obviously. I mean, there's usually more of them in movies because
they're awesome.
Because they're awesome.
because they're awesome, and also, hey, sexy ladies.
Yeah.
But
who wants to listen to Van Helsing talk some more anyway?
let's skip ahead. Are there more ladies?
The three of you had such distinct personalities too.
Yeah.
It was really great
Yeah.
to hear what you brought forth beyond the text.
We try to coordinate our voices at the right time.
Yeah. That was pretty awesome. Some pretty cool inspirations that came out of that.
Yeah.
I love the part where you guys kill the horses.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think it came through so well in the...
Sound effects of plenty on that one, too. And then there was nothing. Like, oh.
Really, regarding vampires, and, like, of course, there's your deaths to think about, too. But, like, it's kind of amazing what a humanitarian Bram Stoker is. Because he talks about how every time a vampire is slain, they feel peace. And how Mina herself said that she wished that the men would think about bringing peace to Dracula rather than just killing their foe, and not like killing him in anger. And I thought that's really a lesson that we need today. Like also to see people and like even creatures. If you can do that exercise where you just see the best in everything and everyone. And to hope for the best, even in your foe.
In a book about monsters, he was telling us to be better.
Right, but be better people.
Be better people.
Mm-hmm.
Because even Dracula's a people.
And even Dracula sees peace at the end. Mm-hmm. And like that's kind of amazing. You never see that. That's almost Hayao Miyazaki.
And I almost missed that file. Mm-hmm. There was one audio file of Dracula. The only file in that last episode is him going. I'll do it close to the mic. And I'm like, that's the piece. Yeah. Damn it, I can't miss the piece. So luckily, he does meet his piece at the end. But that's a good point.
The empathy.
The empathy, yes, that he feels, and that he has other characters point out, and that makes them better.
Yeah,
because they can point out that empathy with each other.
And that came from her.
Yeah, that came from Mina.
Yep.
The book is really
her desire.
Yeah, the book really is about Mina, and so many people miss that. And that was one thing, I don't know if it came clear from listening to it, but that was one thing we were all in agreement starting out, was that Mina really is the core character of the book. Mm-hmm. So.
And it's helpful that thanks to the non-chronological way that we do it, she appears so early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because otherwise it's usually... Harker. Yeah.
Harker Dracula.
Van Helsing.
Yeah, that's later. Yeah.
Oh, hey, here's Mina. Anyway.
All right, I'm going to rewind just a little bit, because it's something that I want to bring up that nobody else who doesn't have access to our Google Drive would know, but one of the more amusing things out of this project was many, many files of Arthur blubbers again. Arthur sobbing again.
Yeah.
More John Arthur Robert sobbing.
Oh, man. Major kudos and shout outs to John Robert Matz for crying repetitively so much.
And having to keep it fresh.
Always fresh, always crying.
He's like, I gotta cry again.
Sorry to make you cry so much, John.
Every now and then I got a file and I'm listening and there was some bits like, silently weeping. Well, I guess I don't have to cry there. Because it says that it's silent. And I'm like, very good, John.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Highlight all the areas in the script that say no crying.
Blubber. Yeah, yes. But he could cry on command. He cried a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Lots of crying.
His big sounds were crying and exertions of pounding a stake into his wife.
That was great.
I think there was like squishy Jello. There was an actual hammer. There was like a shoe hitting concrete, and on top of that, I had John going. and that equals magic.
Yes. And don't forget my quint.
Yeah.
My quint noises. I'm so proud of those quint noises.
Quint noises.
Well, fortunately, our audience members, or those who are listening to our podcast this evening, when it's published, they won't have to cry because we're going to come up with another project.
Is the door unlocked?
Oh, it is.
Oh, wait, hold on. We've got...
Come on in. Let's hold for a second.
We have a gift.
Unless the door's not.
Come on in.
Hi, Brian.
Hi.
Yay!
Hello, vampire people.
Hi.
How are you?
Technically recording, but we're putting a pause on it while you come in.
For editing purposes, my brother has, just so I know, Brian has walked into the room.
Brian has entered the building.
Just be upstairs or something.
That's my warning sound for myself.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Hey.
Shoes are a thing, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Problem on.
Oh, I didn't take mine off. Sorry.
Working on it.
I've got like
whatever.
massive boots on.
I'm wearing sheep socks.
You're wearing comfortable socks.
Hello, person I don't know.
Hello, other person I don't know.
I'm Bram.
I'm John.
Nice to meet you.
All right.
All right.
So
All right.
back to what we're saying.
So maybe restart your statement.
Yes. So our audience listeners do not have to cry. We are not going away. We have another project coming up. This one, though, you will have to come see. Gwen, would you like to announce what the next project will be?
We will be putting on The Medium by Minotti in October. Nice little Halloween opera for Halloween.
Yes, next
It's a
October.
one act.
It's a one act. It's a short one.
It's spooky.
It is spooky, and we're gonna have fun with it.
I'm excited.
It's in English.
It
Hooray!
is in English. Yeah.
So come down to Pittsburgh and see it.
Yeah.
We'll definitely do some Bram's lounging for that. Help us get the word out.
And I'll see if I can structure into this. Is no guarantees. I'm going to see if I can structure into the license, getting some recordings out of it.
Ooh.
Not a full recording. We can't afford that, but
Yeah.
try to get some excerpts that we
Some
can do.
clips and things. Nice.
That would be
Very
great.
nice.
I like when we can show proof that we did a thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't always happen in the business.
We got some stuff to work on and figure out for that, but it's official. So very excited to be able to announce that in our
Yeah.
Yay!
final behind the scenes for Dracula. I did want to go around to each of us and have our final thoughts, but before I do that, I did want to mention that we have one of our viewers listeners gave us this comment about this, our current project. This production is amazing, at least as high quality as any podcast from the BBC. That was from Emily Galgan. That's a huge compliment.
It is.
That's
I love the BBC. That's like Hitchhiker's Guide and Doctor Who.
Yes.
Yum, 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 yum.
Yeah.
Yes.
They do great stuff. So that's really nice. That's nice of her to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Bonnie, what are your final thoughts about wrapping up the Dracula podcast?
I'm happy and sad that it's over because it's like, oh my god, it was so much work. And my brain is like, I have so much I want to polish and so many things I want to fix and so many. It's like, oh, that one time where we got that one word wrong and I know I said that other word wrong. I want to fix that word. But at the same time, I'm really proud of everything and I really miss Mina. I didn't think I'd miss her, but I feel like I got to know my character pretty good. And she gave me the most challenging stuff I've ever had to do. I think that's the most serious role I've ever had to play. Ever. So it was really fun to push myself somewhere where I'm not comfortable a lot. Like there were some uncomfortable scenes, but it was really a good learning experience and I had a blast doing all the monster noises and like layering wolves and chariots and like baby eating apple sequences and all that. So it was just it's like that bittersweet like but knowing that we do hope to polish I think and release it in other forms at some point and find some way to spread it beyond where it is. But I'm glad we're all taking a breather to sit back and go a little first. But yeah. But otherwise, when's the next one? At the same time, like, not right away, right? Good.
Are we gonna have a bloopers reel?
Oh yeah, and along the way, bloopers, Judy reminded me, have been gathered, and I think over different holiday breaks and stuff, I'm also going to reskim some sessions that I haven't plucked stuff from. And I know some of the ones I've picked are just John mentioning that he doesn't have to cry because it says silently weeping and stuff like that. And I know there are some doozies every now and then, like somebody will just do something like there are some gems in there. So expect maybe cross fingers. That might be something that can pop around as a Christmas gift to everybody listening. If I can make it some fun little blooper memories. I think the cast will especially appreciate hearing the stuff they thought that I didn't keep. So, yeah, that'll be nice. Liz.
I would say that I'm really, so as a performer, I'm very honored to have been able to bring my own personality, I guess, to a character as misunderstood as Lucy. I feel like she is one of the most misunderstood characters in Dracula, that everyone thinks that she has to be the opposite of Mina.
She's the slutty one.
Yeah, she's the slutty one because everybody wants her, therefore she's a slut. And that's so not the case, and she's a character of such great empathy and who really sees the good in people. And I wanted to bring that forward, and I hope that I succeeded. And to bring real tragedy to her character's death in the way that other characters would feel, and hopefully the audience would feel as well, from a character that is so vibrant, so loving, so caring, so empathetic. And I was very honored to have been able to play that part. As a script supervisor, I was really happy to have been able to keep a lot of things in my head at the same time. I felt like it enabled my performance, as well as being able to pull together pieces from the script in other ways when saying, well, in the future you say this, so now that you're recording this, you should keep that in mind, and just sort of try to keep as much of it in my head at the same time as possible.
And that helped everyone else so much.
I hope,
too. With you, keeping us reminded of where our brain spaces is, because we didn't always record in order, was very important.
Trying to put those borderline Asperger skills to use.
Yeah.
In terms of keeping the entire thing in as much as possible. So that was really fun.
It helped me too, because I was trying to pay attention to what things sounded like, how they would come through, and then you doing all the, this is the continuity, this is what the background of this story is right here. That kept my space separate from that space. So that was
cool.
very good. Yeah. I'm very proud of this project. I was talking to a friend at a Halloween party, one of our listeners actually, and I said, "This is actually to me right now. This is the work of my life to have been working on this. I'm very proud of it, even if we only have 10 people listening to it. But but obviously we have more people than that listening to it. But even if it were the case, no one else listened to it. It's just so cool that it came together and it was put. Yeah. It is really good, and I'm very proud of it. I'm very, very proud of it. So.
It was epic, I think.
I've
been describing it as it was an epic thing for us to take on.
Book.
Yeah. I mean, we knew it was going to be a lot of work, but I don't think we even knew quite as much work as it was. But
a book and then some.
Yeah.
We knew it was going to hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we finished.
But it did. It did. It's just amazing. It's amazing to me that we did it. I had my doubts for a little bit. I was like, well, we'll see how far we get. But we did.
All the way to the end. And I am thrilled to have been a part of this process. And this is my first time ever kind of hosting / producing these podcasts. So that was a learning experience, something new that I got to enjoy. I've loved listening to you guys talk about the process. To me, it's like I was there.
Yay!
And sometimes you were.
And sometimes I was. But,
you've been doing lots of stuff in the microphone.
Yes, but I mean, as far as the editing and the scripts and the blood, sweat, and tears and the scheduling conflicts and, trying to... It's a lot more than people think it is. They listen and they hear the story and they get lost in the story. Yeah. But there's a whole bunch of layers and everything that went into that. Somebody, I think a student or a performer had mentioned something about, they gave a critique about the performance they had just recently watched. And one of the performers had a cold, or the way they were performing had a cold. And they were like, oh, and then the other person who played this role, that was next to them, but they didn't understand why they had, like, both gotten sick. I'm like, because you have this much space, and I'm pulling my hands together here backstage. There's a whole bunch of things that happen behind the scenes, the process, that you as the audience member are not aware of. So I think these are a great way to let our audience know, this is love. This is a work of love. So thank you for letting me be part of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thanks, Judy.
thanks, Judy.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you. We love having you involved.
Yeah.
Can't wait to do Medium. Excited.
I know.
Oh my god. And then
I should also mention that we are going to rebroadcast Dracula next year. It's just a matter of setting up the WordPress to copy.
and we'll fix some. We'll fix some.
Bonnie
errors.
has some ideas that she's going to fix some stuff.
I have a dream.
We will see if that actually
that I will
happens.
fix some errors or things where Liz maybe caught I hope there's a doc somewhere. Remember I kept saying, is there a doc? Are you putting these in the doc?
No.
Records!
Always keep records. Because she's like, did you notice something? I'm like,
Yeah.
no, please write it down.
Usually I would email.
Or my
but that would
text,
usually be
or a
days in
Facebook
advance.
message, or a
So-
Google Hangout chat.
So if some things get fixed, that's fine. I think it's fine the way it is.
Like,
even
there's
so.
some times where someone maybe does 2 takes of the same sentence because I was reviewing 16 takes and one squeezes its way in.
Oops.
But,
Oh well.
But
in any case,
you know.
we are going to rebroadcast on some, at least something, because it's going to be very easy just to read.
Watch for us May 3rd.
I know. Starting May 3rd.
Yes.
Oh, yeah! Yeah, because,
Yeah. Super easy this way.
guess, should we...
Here are some final thoughts from Sean Lenhart, the one Canticle member who could not be here this evening.
Hi, you fancy internet people. My name is Sean Lenhart. I played Dr. John Seward in the Dracula podcast. I really had a fun time doing this. Honestly, it was a pile of fun, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm just grateful because I'm friends with such awesome people that from the get-go, they're like, hey, we're doing this Dracula podcast. I'm like, cool. I'm just going to pick who I want to play, and they were gracious enough to let me be Dr. Seward. So I'm really grateful for that and thankful. And, I as well as voicing Seward, I got to help out behind the scenes, formatting the scripts for the actors and getting to know the other people and trying to present our project in a professional way to our other actors who are great to work with, as well as editing the work that other actors would send in and give it to Bonnie so she could do the hard work and the polish and the final putting together of the project. So very grateful for all of that. Learned a lot. It was a lot of work, but definitely really enjoyed the whole process. For me, my favorite part to act was definitely the beginning of October when Lucy finally succumbs and dies due to Dracula, sucking her blood. I liked it a lot as an actor because Seward has a lot of just back-to-back journal entries. And from my point of view, they're after the events. The things have happened, and now he's writing about them. And then he takes a break, does more adventures, comes back and writes about them. So his mood at the end is where he starts writing. It's this weird cyclical thing where he could be like, I had some tea today and then I fought a monster, So he's going to start writing from the point of view of, I just fought a monster. Okay, so I had some tea today. But at the same time, it's a radio drama. We're trying to tell the story. We're trying to go through this whole process. So he had a lot of these moments where he would be, before Lucy was actually dead, he already knew she was dead. He was writing about the events leading up to it. So he starts out. Everything is through the lens of, I know how this journal entry is going to end. And it's with morose and sadness and despair. He also had he had a lot of yelling, Dr. Van Helsing, are you mad? Which is I don't get to say that enough on a daily basis, So, I mean, I say it about once a week, but not on a daily basis. So it was really a lot of fun to throw out a lot of those, and a lot of very fun scenes with Van Helsing, played by Cyrus Namadi, who was a real fun guy. Great to work with. And it was just a lot of fun to make these interesting acting choices and have to know where the story's going and just watch John's mood constantly shift from entry to entry to entry and just try to dive in and embrace all of that he'd be, disgusted in one and completely shocked in another and exhausted in another. And the exhaustion was always a lot of fun to play with because you'd just be like, okay, I've been awake for 36 hours and I'm now writing in my journal because I can't fall asleep. So trying to start out in a tired way and then make the story exciting and then round it back off to end in a tired way. Those kinds of things were a lot of fun. And all the times when Dr. Seward would, when he would just kind of like get real dark, he'd be really upset and gravelly and, I'm going to smash that guy. It's just really fun to make that kind of a voice and, be as Metal Gear Solid Snake as I can when I do that. So, that's just my own personal joy of doing it. But aside from my favorite part to act, one of my favorite things was always during the editing because oftentimes we record on Discord, so we'd have someone recording their half of the dialogue, and they'd send it sometimes in just one big package. So sometimes, we'd have a scene, and I'd have like a 30-minute thing to edit down, which never a problem. It was just fun because I could hear everything else going on behind the scenes. So personally recording their lines and then talking to Gwen, our director. So usually I'd just hear their end of the conversations. They'd be telling jokes and telling stories, and I'm, skipping through it, trying to find the lines we need, but I'm just laughing because I'm like, these events are going on, or Gwen will be reading other characters' lines, and then the person recording it, typically like, Cyrus or something, they'd be commenting on what Gwen was saying, John Seward would be saying something, Gwen would be reading the lines, be like, "Oh, Dr. Van Helsing, are you mad?" And they'd be like, "Well, yes, I'm quite mad, yes, So there's these little outtakes and bloopers and things that no one else gets to hear, That was only alive when it was recorded, and then I got to hear it, and I cut it all out before I went to Bonnie's. So just these little secret things, these little extra morsels of actor goodness that were kind of just for me. I really appreciated that, and it was really a lot of fun. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you tune in every year. Check out the YouTube channel and whatnot, and the podcast, and just enjoy this lovely thing we've all worked very hard on and created together, and a great way to honor Bram Stoker's legendary story, and it's something you can enjoy. It's like a weird 6-month-long advent calendar of Dracula, so enjoy.
Whatever.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, for joining us and listening and partaking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank to all our listeners.
Yeah.
Yay.
And if you're listening, let us know so we can say more than 10 people listened. Please comment on our website and our Twitter and our
YouTubes.
Facebook and our YouTubes.
Pretty please.
We'd love to hear from you.
Blah.
Bye. Thank you.